a plain gray relic from another time, no chrome, no shine, no reason to stare. But behind that dull paint was a monster. The 1955 Chevy from Two-Lane Blacktop wasn't built to impress anyone. It was built to terrify everything else on the road. 3 identical cars were created for the film, each deadlier than the last. One nearly killed a cameraman when its driveshaft exploded at 90 miles an hour. Another was packed with a crash cage for a stunt so violent the director canceled it at the last second. And all 3 began life-painted baby blue, sweet harmless suburban, before being buried under primer gray, like hiding innocence beneath scars. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Years later, the same car would roar back to life, this time in American Graffiti repainted black with Harrison Ford behind the wheel. This is the story of the car that cheated death fame and time itself. Here are 20 weird facts that prove it was never just a movie prop. It was a living legend. Number 20. The budget sleeper choice. Everyone expected Hollywood to pick a shiny 1955 Bel Air chrome fins, the kind of car you'd see gliding through a parade. But director Monte Hellman didn't want a trophy. He wanted truth. He chose the Chevy 150, the cheapest, most stripped-down sedan Chevrolet ever made. No chrome, no polish, no pretense, just the lightest body he could find. It was what real street racers would have bought in 1970, a plain workhorse turned weapon. The 150 weighed roughly 150 pounds less than a Bel Air, and when you're running quarter miles, every ounce matters. Hellman called it honest steel. He didn't want a movie car pretending to be fast. He wanted a fast car pretending to be ordinary. Number 19. The triple threat build. Universal didn't stop at one. They built 3 separate 55 Chevys, identical in looks, radically different in purpose. The hero car handled all the close-ups and highway shots with James Taylor at the wheel. The interior car was a Frankenstein rig gutted and filled with camera mounts, lighting gear, and enough cables to wire a small studio. And then came the stunt car, designed to die. It had reinforced doors, dual handbrakes, and a full roll cage for a spectacular rollover sequence that never happened. Each car had its own engine suspension and quirks, and during filming, they were swapped between shots so often that chrome trim would disappear, then reappear again. Continuity was chaos, but authenticity survived. What Two-Lane Blacktop accidentally invented became standard for every car movie after it. 3 cars, 1 legend. Number 18. The Phantom crash scene. That third car's destiny was supposed to be destruction. The stunt team spent weeks prepping a violent crash. The Chevy would lose control at 100 miles an hour and roll down the highway in a haze of twisted metal. It was the grand finale until Hellman killed it. He realized a crash would betray the movie's soul. He wanted an ending that faded into mystery, not fire. So the car built to die never did. It just sat there armored and waiting the most expensive ghost in movie history. Later, the stunt coordinator admitted he was heartbroken. "It was the best car I ever built," he said, "and I never got to wreck it." Number 17. The color cover-up. Here's a weird one. All 3 Chevys were originally painted baby blue. Soft, cheerful, completely wrong for a film about disillusioned drifters. So the paint team buried that blue beneath coats of dull primer gray, fast, rough, imperfect. But the old color never fully died. Under desert sunlight, faint hints of blue shimmered through around the doors and under the hood like a ghost of the car's former life. Hellman loved it. He said the gray made the car look unfinished, hungry, evolving, always one step away from completion. A glossy paint job, he argued, would mean satisfaction, and the driver's Chevy was never satisfied. Number 16. The Fiberglass Deception. The Chevy looked like solid Detroit steel, but it wasn't. To make it faster, the builders swapped the hood trunk lid and both doors for custom fiberglass panels, shaving nearly 200 pounds off the car's weight. It was brilliant and a nightmare. The panels warped in the heat, creating gaps that shifted between takes. They rattled, flexed, and made the car sound hollow, forcing the sound team to fake every door slam in post-production. During one high-speed scene, the hood nearly tore off from wind pressure. After that, the crew added extra hood pins and prayed. James Taylor later joked, "The car felt like it might come apart just from thinking about it." But that fragility gave it character. It was fast, flawed, and alive. A machine that always seemed 1 mile away from self-destruction. From its bare-bones origin to its mismatched builds, every choice was deliberate. Hellman wasn't crafting a showpiece, he was building a paradox. A cheap car that felt eternal. A fragile machine that looked indestructible. That contradiction would become the heartbeat of Two-Lane Blacktop, and the reason this unpainted ghost still haunts movie history. Number 15. The Plexiglass Experiment. The windows in the Two-Lane Blacktop Chevy weren't glass at all. They were plexiglass, the same material used in aircraft canopies. Real glass was too heavy and bulky, so the crew built lightweight panels that slid horizontally on aluminum tracks. It saved 40 pounds and made room for cameras to peer directly into the driver's face. But innovation always bites back. Plexiglass scratched easily, warped in the heat, and generated massive static electricity. Crew members joked that touching the car was like shaking hands with a thundercloud. Worst of all, plexiglass doesn't shatter, it bends. Had the deleted crash scene been filmed, the stunt driver could have been trapped inside his own rolling coffin. When the cars later appeared in American Graffiti, the new cast had to be shown how to open those strange sliding windows. It was ingenious, reckless, and very Two-Lane Blacktop. Number 14. The Big Block Surprise. Pop the hood and you'll find something wild, a 468 cubic inch stroker, motor built from a 427 block, in Bored to Hell. Richard Ruth, the film's mechanical mastermind, didn't want a show engine. He wanted raw violence. Twin 750 CFM Hollies, a tunnel ram intake, and a roller cam that lifted over 7/10 of an inch made it nearly undrivable. It idled at 1,200 RPM and drank aviation fuel just to stay alive. On the dyno, it hit 685 horsepower in 1971. During filming, the scoop stuck so far through the hood that it blocked part of James Taylor's view. Between takes, the crew cooled it with portable fans so it wouldn't melt itself alive. The car didn't just act fast, it was fast too much for the movie that contained it. Number 13. The stunt car's secret weapon. The real monster, though, hid in the stunt car. While everyone praised the hero car's 468 stroker, the stunt Chevy packed a genuine L88 427 Corvette race engine, a factory legend barely street legal. Rated at 430 horsepower, but pushing closer to 550, it came with aluminum heads, 12.51 compression, and no emissions gear. Only 216 were ever built, and one ended up in a car meant to crash. The stunt coordinator paired it with a Turbo 400 automatic transmission for smooth, repeatable launches. Ironically, it made the sacrifice car faster than the hero car, running a 12.2-second quarter mile in testing. The fastest car on set was never meant to be seen. Hollywood's best-kept irony, the car built to die, turned out to be the one too powerful to fake. Number 12. The Oldsmobile Connection. Underneath all that Chevrolet steel was an imposter, an Oldsmobile 12-bolt rear axle. It was a drag racer's secret weapon, stronger, thicker, and tougher than Chevy's own. With 4.D81 gears, the car launched like a missile, but ran out of breath at a 110 mph. Every take was a trade-off between acceleration and survival. The setup was so aggressive that the tires chirped even while turning in parking lots. The rear end overheated constantly, forcing the crew to install a tiny electric pump to cool it. It was brilliant, until the custom driveshaft tied to that rear axle exploded during a 90-mph run, nearly killing the cameraman behind the seats. The studio never mentioned it again, but every safety regulation that came after owes something to that close call. Number 11. The stripped interior truth. Inside the Chevy was pure brutality. No dashboard, no padding, no distractions. Everything unnecessary was torched out until nothing remained but a metal shell and 12-pound racing buckets. The dash was replaced with a flat aluminum plate holding 6 Stewart Warner gauges and 1 massive chrome shifter. Even the headliner was ripped out to reflect heat better under the California sun. It wasn't comfort. It was confinement. James Taylor described sitting in the car as being strapped inside a bomb. When the 468 roared to life, the entire cabin trembled like a living thing. It was loud, hot, dangerous, and brutally honest, exactly what Two-Lane Blacktop was meant to be. This wasn't a set prop. It was a war zone disguised as a cockpit. Each modification, each flaw, each near disaster pulled the Chevy closer to myth. It wasn't polished like a studio hero. It was alive, unpredictable, and flawed in the most human way possible. And that's why 50 years later, every screech and misfire still feels real. Number 10. The tire gamble. Those weren't movie props. They were real M&H Racemaster drag slicks, smooth as glass and absolutely illegal for street use. Universal had to beg for highway permits just to roll them on public roads. The crew heated them with burnouts before every take, filling the air with smoke as the sticky rubber clung to the asphalt. The result was traction like a rocket until the sky turned gray. When it rained, the Chevy became uncontrollable. During one mountain scene, it slid sideways at 15 miles an hour, nearly taking out a camera truck. After that, the crew kept a flatbed trailer nearby at all times. Those tires weren't safe, but they made the car look raw, unfiltered, real, and that danger showed in every frame. Number 9. The hidden camera mounts. Every dent and hole on the Two-Lane Blacktop Chevy has a story. 6 camera mounts were welded right into the frame, 2 on the front fenders, 1 through the firewall, 2 at the rear, and 1 under the trunk floor. Each held a 40-pound Aeroflex shaking violently as the car tore through the desert. One mount pointed directly at the pedals to catch James Taylor's feet working the clutch. Another captured rear tire burnouts in slow motion. Those welded scars were permanent. When the same cars reappeared in American Graffiti, the crew had to cover the holes with tape. Today, those marks still exist on the surviving hero car scars that remind us it wasn't just a movie vehicle. It was a rolling camera rig built to survive the violence of its own story. Number 8. The Driveshaft Disaster. It was supposed to be another highway run, nothing special. But as the Chevy screamed past 5,500 RPM, the driveshaft exploded. A front U-joint failed, turning the steel tube into a spinning spear that tore through the transmission tunnel and barely missed a cameraman sitting inches away. He was drenched in scalding gear oil, but somehow unharmed. The explosion ripped the floor open and destroyed the transmission. Production shut down for 2 days while the crew rebuilt the entire system. When they resumed, a steel safety loop was added, a first for a Hollywood movie. The footage of the disaster was immediately destroyed, not for drama, but to hide how close they'd come to tragedy. That silence says everything. Two-Lane Blacktop didn't need special effects. It had real fear baked into its metal. Number 7. The Universal Shuffle. After filming wrapped, the 3 Chevys were stored at Universal Studios, and there their second life began. The sound department discovered that the 468 Stroker's growl was perfect for other car movies. They recorded it, cataloged it, and used it for years. That means when the Trans Am roars to life in Smokey and the Bandit, you're actually hearing the Two-Lane Blacktop Chevy. Meanwhile, the cars themselves were loaned, repainted, and renamed. The hero car went black for a TV show, red for another, and blue again by the time it hit the lot. The interior car was stripped for parts. The stunt car, the one with the L88 engine, was left untouched, almost forgotten, until a new director named George Lucas came looking for a black 55 Chevy for his next project. And that's where the story takes its strangest turn. Number 6. The American Graffiti Connection. Without realizing it, George Lucas resurrected Two-Lane Blacktop's ghosts. Both surviving cars were pulled from Universal's lot and repainted for American Graffiti. The hero car became Bob Falfa's black Chevy, driven by a young Harrison Ford. Chrome trim was added back, the paint gleamed, but underneath the gloss still lay the same primer gray panels and fiberglass doors. The sliding windows were painted black to hide them. The hood stayed sealed so no one could see the race motor beneath. During the iconic drag race scene, Ford admitted he was terrified. The car had too much torque, too little control, and those old racing slicks still gripped like glue. The irony was poetic. A car built for a bleak existential road movie became a symbol of nostalgic youth. The same machine that once represented isolation now stood for adrenaline rebellion and the birth of a new cinematic era. Number 5. The Quarter-Mile Truth. On screen, the Chevy looked like a drifter's machine, a symbol of loneliness and motion. Off screen, it was pure fury. During breaks in filming, the crew took the hero car to Orange County International Raceway for real test passes. With a 468 stroker under the hood, 4.88 gears in the rear, and M&H slicks biting the asphalt, the car ran 12.4 seconds at 118 mph in the quarter mile, a time that made it faster than almost every production muscle car of its era. The stunt car, armed with the L88 and automatic transmission, was even quicker, 12.2 at 121 mph. Universal never promoted those numbers, but the racers on set knew. They'd built legitimate competition cars that just happened to star in a movie. Each run left the big blocks boiling, the crew hosing them down with portable fans to keep them alive. It was Hollywood's first time realizing a film prop could also be a genuine threat on the drag strip. Number 4. The VIN Mystery. For decades after Two-Lane Blacktop, nobody could say for sure which surviving Chevy was the real hero car. Rumors spread. Collectors claimed to have it. Auctions hinted they did. But there was only one man who truly knew: Richard Ruth, the builder himself. In 2008, he came forward with the receipts diagrams and even the original VIN tag VC55P2010-16. But the truth wasn't simple. That VIN traced back to a car built in Oakland, not Los Angeles. It turned out Universal had swapped VIN tags between the three cars to satisfy insurance and paperwork. The hero car fans worship today is a mix of all three: the body from one, the panels from another, the soul from them all. In a story about identity, the car itself ended up with a fractured identity of its own. It couldn't have been more poetic. Number 3. The Fiberglass Shell Game. By the end of filming, chaos ruled the garage. The crew swapped body panels constantly. Fiberglass doors, steel trunks, dented hoods, grabbing whatever was ready. Sometimes the left door was fiberglass while the right was steel. Sometimes the hood changed shape halfway through a scene. Script supervisors gave up trying to track it all. Frame by frame, you can spot the differences. A wavy reflection here, a missing trim line there. Those errors became part of the film's texture, accidental continuity that made the cars feel alive. When restoration experts finally examined the authenticated hero car, they found pieces from all three Chevys blended together like a collage of metal and memory. No one could say which car was which, and that confusion, that perfect imperfection, became its final identity. Number 2. The Barrett-Jackson Vindication. After decades of whispers and replicas, the Two-Lane Blacktop Chevy finally resurfaced in 2015 at the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale auction. The room expected a novelty, maybe $60,000 if nostalgia kicked in. But when the auctioneer announced it was the verified hero car, the crowd erupted. Collectors from the US, Germany, and Japan locked into a bidding war that turned the floor electric. The price leapt past $100,000 in minutes. Then came the final hammer, $159,500. For a car that once cost less than a used pickup, it was redemption. The buyer, a tech executive who'd watched Two-Lane Blacktop in college, said he wasn't buying a machine, he was buying an idea. To me, he said it's proof that something unfinished can still be perfect. And just like that, the gray ghost that once symbolized emptiness found new meaning as a living relic of cinema's search for authenticity. The Two-Lane Blacktop Chevy's journey from budget prop to six-figure artifact proved one thing: you can polish a legend, repaint it, even forget it, but you can't kill its story. Because in the end, it wasn't just about the car. It was about what it represented: rebellion, imperfection, and a kind of truth that only old metal can tell. Number 1. The engine that wouldn't die. If the Two-Lane Blacktop Chevy had a soul, this was it, a 468 cubic inch stroker built to outlive everything around it. Forged from an L88 427 block, it was the beating heart that powered James Taylor through the long, silent highways of Hellman's America. And somehow, it refused to stop beating. When Universal sold off the Hero car in 1976, its new owner pulled the engine and installed it in a drag boat. There it won races. Then it was pulled again, dropped into a 68 Camaro road racer, tuned for fuel injection, and 720 horsepower. It dominated SCCA events for nearly a decade before being yanked once more and bolted into another boat, then a 57 Chevy, and finally, a pulling truck on a Nebraska farm. Every owner added their touch new heads, different cams, fresh scars, but the block never died. By the 1990s, it was barely recognizable, its paint scorched, its history forgotten. Until one collector, tracing engine serials through decades of race records, found something impossible: a farmer using it to power an irrigation pump. There, deep in the Midwest, the same motor that once screamed across the desert in Two-Lane Blacktop was quietly feeding crops. The collector bought it on the spot. He tore it down, verified the hidden builder's stamp Richard Ruth had etched in the Lifter Valley back in 1970, and confirmed what no one dared to believe: this was the engine. After 40 years of chaos, it was restored to its original film specs: the tunnel ram intake, the twin Hollies, the raw metallic heartbeat of a movie that refused to die. Today it sits in a climate-controlled glass case, scarred but proud, the mechanical equivalent of a war veteran. It has powered boats, cars, and lives. It has roared, drowned, and risen again. And in every roar, there's something more than horsepower. There's defiance. Because the car from Two-Lane Blacktop was never just a prop. It was a philosophy on four wheels, the idea that perfection is an illusion, that the pursuit matters more than the finish line. The engine's story mirrors the film itself, misunderstood, immortal, endlessly searching. Maybe that's the real reason it still fascinates us, not because it's fast, but because it never stopped running, even after the cameras did. It's strange, isn't it? How a dull gray Chevy with no chrome and no shine somehow outlasted the movies, the men, and the moment that built it. It was never meant to be a star, and maybe that's exactly why it became one. It began as a cheap 150 sedan chosen for its honesty. It grew into three identical beasts, one for beauty, one for cameras, one for chaos. It survived the crash that never happened, hid its baby blue heart beneath primer gray, and raced like a ticking time bomb, made of fiberglass and fury. Its windows shocked the crew, its engine shook the desert, and its drive shaft nearly killed a cameraman. It roared through. Two-Lane Blacktop vanished into storage and re-emerged in American Graffiti under a new coat of black, still the same soul reborn. Then came the afterlife, real races, collectors chasing ghosts, vine tags swapped like secret identities, fiberglass doors traded until no one knew which car was which, and finally, the gray ghost's resurrection at Barrett-Jackson, where a crowd realized they weren't bidding on metal, but on mythology. And at the center of it all, that indestructible 468 stroker, the engine that refused to die, that traveled through boats, Camaros, and cornfields, only to end up behind glass, still breathing. 50 years later, the Two-Lane Blacktop Chevy remains a paradox, fragile, yet fearless, forgotten, yet unforgettable. It wasn't built to win. It was built to exist, unfinished, imperfect, eternal. So maybe the real race never ended. Maybe it just changed roads. Which of these 20 facts hit you the hardest? Tell us below and buckle up, because next time, we're diving into another screen legend with secrets of its own. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road and your heart in the movies.